Hello and welcome to The Hero Spouse. I'm Kendra Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Today we have Zoe. Zoe has a bomb drop of May 6th, 2021, a date of marriage of 2016, and her husband is a boomerang with a high energy replayer. She says, "It's me again. My husband has gone back to the alienator, the one who was violent and falsely accused him of rape." So if you look back in some of the archives, we talked about this before. And just for anybody newbie who is listening to this, the accusation of rape is not normal for alienators. I mean, they do crazy things, but this might be the only one that I've heard of. So don't get scared. She says they don't live together. I think he sees her every other weekend when he doesn't have our son. I got angry when I found out and I argued with him. You know what? There's nothing wrong sometimes with that. You should be angry. And arguing with your MLCer does not mean that you have just gone off the rails. Sometimes it's needed. You need to vent. And venting doesn't always mean doing something cathartic like write a letter and then don't show anyone and burn it. Sometimes you have to communicate it. It's okay. So you argued with him. I asked him to answer honestly whether he's happy with her and if he's genuinely in love with her. You know that. You know the answer to that. He couldn't answer. It says he couldn't answer because he knows he's not. Sometimes they'll say they are because they limit. That is the answer they feel. And sometimes it's just to, of course, why would I be doing what I'm doing or whatever? I set my boundary that I will not be in his life if she is, and I've gone no contact as much as I possibly can with kids. Good. Before, when he went back to her, our son refused to talk to him or see him, which seemed to lead him to end his relationship sooner. He hasn't done that this time, so he thinks he's fine with it. So he thinks that your husband thinks your son is fine with it. That's what I'm reading with the different he's. Okay. He gets to see his son and carry on with this dysfunctional relationship with the alienator. Our son isn't fine. And he's made it clear to my husband that he will have nothing to do with the alienator. Okay, so I'm going to just track back. He hasn't done it this time, so your husband hasn't done it. So is it your son that thinks he's fine with it? I'm not sure. I guess I got unclear there because now you say your son has made it clear to your husband. Okay, let's just go on. Is there anything else I should be doing while this toxic cycle runs its course? I'm looking into taking legal action to prevent the alienator being allowed near our 9-year-old. Do that. Absolutely. And then what else do? You do that no contact thing and you make it as strict as you can. I know that you said you've gone no contact as much as possible. Make it more possible. And what I mean by that is if the courts say, or your son wants access and time with him, see if you can have some form of a mediator for child exchanges so that you don't have to be there. If your son, and did you have two? A 9-year-old and an older one? It's the older one that blocked him. I can't. That's what feels familiar, but I can't remember. Can your son be waiting by the door, and he has to be when he arrives? There's no coming up to the door. Your son goes out to the car. That sort of thing. You can even have. There are apps that are child co-parenting schedules that you could put things in a calendar that you would both have access to. I don't know how these works. I haven't used them, but I've heard of them. And then you might even not have to text each other yet. It might be that the app texts you when things have been changed or updated, but there wouldn't be any direct texting. And if you have to text each other, that's what I would rather. But even safer putting the barrier of an app in it, because then it's just he changes something or says, no, I can't do this, maybe on. But you have that on the schedule. And that can go into the court also, whereas the court is aware of this is how the communication is working. Because I want your no contact to be as much as possible. And sometimes we think that, well, I have to have this much because of the kids. Go stricter. See what you can do to make that even more. Because you're doing the right thing. It's toxic and you can't rescue him. Sorry. And when he calls you one day and says, okay, I'm done, what do? Let's say he doesn't say I want to come home, but you can tell that he wants to start that process even, but like, I want to be done, I need help. You are allowed to give it to him, but don't give him your trust. And what I mean by that is, you figured out you don't know that it's over. He wants it desperately to be over, but he still gets pulled back in. There's limerence. But when we all have trouble believing limerence is still active, when things have been so violent, accusing him of rape, all things like this. It can still work, limerence, but emotional blackmail. But think of the other things that come with that emotional blackmail. Blackmail, actual blackmail, extortion. I will tell people about this. Emotional blackmail is, you owe this to me because I sacrificed everything for me. Don't you love me? It's playing the victim. It's saying, I gave up everything. You need me. It's playing guilt trips on a person. The actual blackmail is, if you don't do this, I'll do this to you. I will expose you. I will tell everybody about you. So she's using that with the rape charge. You do that again, I'm going to accuse you of rape again. You do this again, here are the consequences. You need to do these things for me. It's going to extortion, or I'll do these things. That is pretty powerful. And so I want you to go in and approach this with the empathy of what he is trying to go through. Sometimes he might be going through, I'm doing this to save my family. And sure, he's playing a victim. But she's done some things that are really serious. And in the Me Too context, which Me Too is an important thing, but there are times when people can use it against you. And so he could be in real danger because of that. And if he's in danger, then so are the rest of you. She can cause so much more trauma. And so I get him being stuck between Scylla and Charybdis, because this rock in a hard place, he doesn't know how to get out of it. And I don't know how to get out of it if I were in there, trying to do what's best for your family, but when what's best for your family is kowtow to somebody because she's going to accuse you of rape. And I know you said last time that the authorities figured it out, but oftentimes women are the ones to be believed when rape is the accusation. So I want you've got to leave him to it as much as you can. Give him the empathy. And right now you're giving it to him from a distance. But in that no contact, I want to know if, let's see, I think you did say it. You've gone no contact as much as possible. Okay, I set my boundary that I will not be in his life if she is. Now, how did you phrase that? Think about how you phrased that. In other words, when you phrased it, was it very clear that you are allowed to contact me when? So saying, if you just rush through the phrasing, you can't contact me if she's in your life. Stay out of my life if she's there. Notice how fast I kind of went through it, and I give the if. It kind of slides past radar, which sometimes can be a good thing. But in this instant, it might slide past so that she doesn't really notice that you've just given her an exit clause to the no contact. So the no contact is, make sure he is aware that he is allowed, if this is the case, to remove the no contact, to communicate with you, to start opening communication, at least initiate it. When? And you emphasize it. You may contact me when she's out of your life, when you have chosen. In my case, it was to be an appropriate spouse, because I was standing and I was standing strong. And when you have chosen, and she is out of your life, when you've chosen to be an appropriate spouse, when you have chosen to get rid of her and be appropriate. Now, maybe you're not standing. I get it. So it's when she's out of your life, and you can co-parent. You're choosing to be an appropriate co-parent and parent. You're parent with me, that sort of thing. You have to think about what kind of language goes with it, but make sure that that is emphasized. And if he keeps trying to contact you and you're not answering the phones, all of these things, let's say he emails you, you can get a canned response, and you can just paste it, and don't have to paste it into every one, but it's the exact response. So he can eventually, after you've sent it to him several times, he's like, She's not responding to me. She's just copying and pasting something. It's I've discussed this before. You know that I said that you were not to contact me. You are allowed to contact me and give them the rules of it. That way, if you are on a no contact and don't want to break it for a moment so that you can re-emphasize when, you can use that canned response. Okay. And given that you do have kids, there are probably other opportunities for you to re-emphasize that if you haven't already. Because in my situation, that was one thing that Chuck was very clear about. I had repeated it over and over and over again from the time he left, that he was at home, this last period of being home before he left again, to when he left. That few month period, there were two things that were just emphasized over and over. It was that you're going to leave, when you leave again, we knew it was going to be when. We can't be together for 12 months. I didn't say whether that was, I said, it's 12 months. I didn't say 12 months from the time he left her or from the time he left our house. That was my only fuzzy part. He didn't pick up on it because I wanted to see how long it was till he left her again. And if he was gone for 2 months, if he was gone for 9 months, I wasn't going to say, okay, come back home in 3 months. But if he was gone for 2, which it was about that, 2 or 3, it was a year from the time he left our house. So I was fuzzy on that one detail. And I don't think he even realizes that to this day. But other than that, when you have chosen, you may contact me, whether that's by phone or whatever. And then if he says, but you don't answer your phone when I call, it's like, yeah, you leave a message. I'll check them. He can send you an email, and if you don't have them blocked, the subject can be, so you don't even have to open it. And you can just scan through all your emails, and then you can open that one because the subject is the right subject. And if he abuses that, it's crying wolf, and there's going to be consequences. Well, the next time you do that, how do you know I'll open it? I'm not going to open every email just because you send one. So think about how you're going to do that if you've already done it already, because it sounds like you're doing the right thing already. And that legal action to prevent her being near your son, yes, absolutely do it. She is dangerous. Okay. I am glad you are considering that and taking these kind of mama bear actions. So I hope this helps, and just keep up the good work. And I will see everybody in the next question.